Shalom, ladies. I'm happy you joined us. Shalom, everyone on Facebook. Glad to have you here with us. So today we're going to talk about the LGBTQ community in Israel. So we have Idan, who will present himself better than I will do, I guess, to tell us about the LGBT community in Israel. You're more than welcome to ask questions. Idan will lead the discussion. And that's it. Idan, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me here. So, shalom everyone. My name is Idan Sharon. I am the Israeli emissary to Adat Shalom Reconstructionist Congregation in Rockville, Maryland, as of 2 years now. I am soon, in less than a month, I'm finishing my shlichut and going back to Israel full of brand new knowledge about American Judaism and America in general and the US. And today I'm joining you to talk about Pride Month and specifically about the aspects of LGBT life in Israel. So before I even share the presentation, thank you for joining us, Donna. I'm just sharing with everyone a little bit about myself. So hello again, my name is Idan Sharon. What we will be talking today about the LGBTQ community will be what you pick. And I'll explain in a minute, but before I elaborate, I just want to say that I've been in the military as a lecturer, and I believe that in the core of every true session, it needs to be driven by you. So at any point, if you have any question, anything that I was unclear in, something you want me to repeat, either terminology you did not understand, or a topic that I was not clear on, please immediately stop me and ask your question. I will also instruct when we will have time to actually stop. So now I'm going to share the screen. You can also, if you are unable to talk, you can absolutely, where is it? Just a second. You can absolutely also write in the chat if you are unable. Just a second. Something seems to have gone wrong with my Prezi. In the meantime, I will share that I'm part of the emissarial group called Life Online, and we are doing sessions in all topics, but mostly related to Israel, to everyone in America. So by the end of the session, I'll share all the details in the chat for you to know. So let's go.
I will just say that I will send you the information about the Life Online on the next Israeli program from Jacob that I'm sending. It's going to be in the next email. The Reading Jewish Federation, we had it on the email this week. That's it.
Thank you, Adi. That's a good way to get us into the topic. So as you see, we have a colorful, beautiful wheel, and this wheel has different aspects of the queer community's life in Israel. So we have youth and teen, we have IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, basically the military service that is mandated for every 18-year-old. We have family life, which is about adoption and surrogacy specifically. We have representation in government and legislation. We have a subject about the pride parades and a term called pink washing. We have about marriage in Israel and society in general. So in each one, I will give you the space to just unmute yourself or write in the chat the topic that you would like to start in. I would zoom in, and if you have any question, we'll answer, and we'll move on to the next one. Was I clear? Excellent. So now, before we start, I'd really like to go over where did I take my data. So first of all, I say that a lot of the things I'll tell you are from personal experience, but personal experience is very, very, how do you say? it's very anecdotal. And anecdotal is not enough when we want to view an entire span of history or legislation. So most of the stuff I took from the Israel Ministry of Foreign Affairs website. And I also used 3 different kinds of surveys, 4 different surveys. So 2 of those are Haaretz, which is a very known newspaper in Israel. It's a survey called Haaretz Dialogue. And I took 2 of those in 2013 and 2017 to get a measurement of the middle. I forgot how to say chetzion. Adi, if you can look it up, it will be terrific. Google it for a second for me. It's not average. I remember. It's the actual middle of statistics. Never mind.
Median?
Median. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Anytime.
I hate averages and I love medians.
Really? We'll talk about it later.
Yes, it's a more accurate form of statistics. Magnus Hirschfeld's Institute survey of 2016, the Berl Katzenelson Fund's 2018 hate report, and for the last little tidbits, I went to Wikipedia. These are our sources. So a little bit about the terminologies that we are going to use. I wrote the gay community, but we will a lot of the time be using the full acronym, the LGBTQIAP. So let's go through all of the letters just to make sure everyone's on the basic line. L, lesbian. G, gay. B, bisexual. T, transgender. Q, queer. I, intersex. A, asexual, and P, pansexual. And in general, LGBTQIAP is a good intro to the session because it just shows the system that granted the name. It is a very binary system where you're either what is normal or accepted when it comes to my biological sex, or you're everything else. You're either what is normal and accepted when it comes to social position, to our gender, or you're everything else. You're either what is normal and proper when it comes to sexual attraction, or you're anything else. And that is also part of the problem, but that's a separate question and a separate session altogether. So I'll be using LGBTQIAP. When I will really get tired, I'll just say the queer community in Israel. That is part of the burden of our terminologies. We try and be very specific to name stuff and to grant them presence, but a lot of times it weighs on the way we as a society manage our discourse. So we will now start, and I'm handing this off to you. So the first of you who would like to pick, go ahead. Miriam?
IDF.
IDF. Yes.
Sure.
Thank you for picking this one. Okay. I'll just say that I had a brilliant service. Most people are either fine or suffered in their military service. Most of them are like, okay, it had its moments. I had a blast. I really enjoyed it. I rolled through a series of physical problems I had. I almost didn't get into military service. And then when I did, like only by chance, I got to the most amazing unit in the military, and I became a lecturer. I got to more than 160 different bases and outposts around the country. I saw combat soldiers, I saw intelligence soldiers, I saw combat supporters and headquarters and high-ranking officers and secret bases, and it was beautiful. And I always like to say that the military is 80 kinds of incredible people and 20 kinds of incredibly stupid people, meaning you can really see the variety of the Israeli public. But what do we know about being a queer soldier in the IDF? First of all, we know that up until somewhere around 1975, it was illegal to be out of the closet as a soldier. And then at that time, a very high-ranking intelligence officer came out of the closet, and he was immediately fired from the military after almost 2 decades or 3 of service. And he was charged with treason and espionage because he was gay. People were saying you were spying on Israel. And at that time, that former intelligence officer gave a very powerful testament to who was back then the chief of the IDF, Yitzhak Rabin, who later became the prime minister of Israel. And Rabin was very moved by the testimony, and ever since then, the laws of the IDF have become increasingly progressive. So in general, openly, you can serve as part of the queer community in all branches of the military in recruitment, placement, and promotion. And this is really important. Harassment on the grounds of sexual orientation or gender or sex is prohibited by the Israeli military commands. When we come to the military, we say the word commands. It's like laws or rules of the military, but it's commands and not rules, because rules or laws are civilian. A little bit in general about the IDF is that it has very tall laws, and the higher you go, the more aware and more tolerant the people are. But the lower you go, the harder it is sometimes. And I would go to 3 or 4 units every day, and sometimes I would be afraid to share about myself, and I would hear homophobic slurs and stuff like that being spoken, meaning there are a lot of specific units where you can be out of the closet, or if you are, there's a very steep social price that you're paying. And also in general, just so you know, in the IDF, a lot of combat soldiers are very machoistic and like male-centered. And that doesn't leave a lot of space to play with gender roles. You have to do that. And some of the military terminologies are how do you say, womanizing? No, objectifying. Like if you will say, I will conquer this hill, and they give this hill a name of a woman, or stuff like that. So that also happens. Again, those are specific units that may happen. I'm just trying to give you a broad spectrum. In general, the IDF is one of the best places to be queer in Israel. Why is that? The military recognizes same-sex couples, including widows and widowers of the same sex, and we will get to that, because this is incredibly unique in the fact that the state does not recognize widows and widowers of the same sex, but the military does. And that is incredible, especially due to the fact that the military, unlike here, if I might say, it takes a very powerful place in the national narrative. It is part of the culture, and if you did not attend as in the military, you are missing an integral part of the experience of being Israeli. And it's something that Americans don't experience. What else that I'd like to say, that in the military service, you are apolitical. It doesn't matter what your opinion is. It doesn't matter like whose party do you support. You don't say anything, because as long as you are on uniform or during service time, even if you're at home, you're considered part of the IDF, and that the IDF does not say anything except what the high-ranking commanders say on the news. And so you cannot participate in any protest. It doesn't matter if you're disabled and you're protesting against disability, how do you say? Exclusion from public places. If you are from the Ethiopian community in Israel and you're experiencing police brutality, it doesn't matter. And so at 2014, I was a brand new soldier. I was a greenie, as they say. And I like by law, I was forbidden from going to the Pride Parade, and I still went, of course, without uniform, but I went. Uh, and at 2016, the military did something incredible, and it said the only civil protest a soldier can do during military service is the gay pride parades. And this just shows like the place that the IDF has for the queer community in general. And it's like this is something I'm extremely proud of. And I was like, as a soldier about to be released from the military, I was like, damn, I wish I had that. Like going to the protest and feeling like I can be there and I'm supported by the military. Of course, you still can go on uniform. You go on civilian clothes only, but it is a significant progress. One small tidbit before I will finish my blurb is that the IDF helps fund sex change surgeries to trans soldiers. So in general, the Army of the People is one of the core values of the IDF. And that means that a lot of people come from different backgrounds. And the IDF, as a social standard, says we come to level the playing field and support people. And this is one of the incredible works that they're doing. Any questions, clarifications? Adi, something you'd like to add?
I have a question on Facebook. Amanda is asking, why do you think the IDF is so welcoming and supportive of the queer community?
I'll say that it is mainly because we have to remember that the Israeli public is more progressive than its political arena. And there are a lot of ways to look at that, but in a lot of ways we can draw parallels to the American political arena. There are a lot of subjects in America and so in Israel that the public has a very strong agreement on, but there are political mechanisms that prevent change. We can see that in Israel when it comes to public transportation on Shabbat, or equal rights to the queer community in general. We can see that here in different areas. We'll not get into that. But the IDF has a lot of control about its inner mechanisms. And also, I'd also like to say that one of the most powerful forces is the ultra-Orthodox public, and they affect politics, but they are not part of the IDF. So they don't get their representation in that. There are some ultra-Orthodox units, but it is not their arena where they are powerful in.
So that, and I just wanted to add one thing before the question. If I remember correctly, a few weeks ago, it was the first transgender who joined the military. If I remember correctly, it was the first one a few weeks ago. Correct.
In Israel?
Yeah.
So no. I know we talked about sex change surgeries, and I know that I specifically knew a soldier who had a sex change surgery during service, and I did not know. I was not her friend. I was just in the office with her, and she would come only once every 2 or 3 weeks. And then 3 months after, we saw a big news story in the military newspaper where they talked about how the military helped her. So what you're talking about, Adi, might be the first out soldier or a first out soldier in a specific combat unit. I'm not aware of the
No, it's just like she did the change before and then she joined the army.
It might be that.
Yeah.
Ruth?
I was going to ask about pronouns, and then I realized that that's also a language question, because there isn't a neutral, there isn't, maybe, I don't know, a good neutral pronoun for a non-binary.
So in general saying, or in the IDF specific?
Well, I'm interested in both, of course.
So I'll say that the IDF is, again, it's a male-centered organization. It's a male-centered culture. So all of the official documents will mostly be in male, and sometimes like even things that are related to women will be in male. So that was funny. I was part of education corps. I was surrounded by women 24/7, and all of the terminology were still plural male. Um, and in general in society, people say some people say anachnu, meaning we, and some say like an he or she, which is funny because he in Hebrew is who, and who means him. So I love that tidbit. Any other question about the IDF in general? We will soon also connect with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but this is also a good place to land questions if you have some. Excellent. Then let's go back and select again. So we did IDF, and we have gone through 24 minutes of our time. I'm saying it plain and simple, we will not get to all of them. I have never gotten to all of them in an hour. I've never gone to all of them in an hour and a half. So we'll try. Ruth?
Can we do marriage?
Marriage, excellent. This one will be much quicker. In Israel, marriage in general, it doesn't matter if you're from the LGBTQ IAP community, every marriage is through the religious institutes of that religion. So if you are Christian, you marry through the church. If you are Muslim, you marry through the mosque. And if you are Jewish, you marry through the ultra-Orthodox denomination of Israel only. And that gives us a lot of problems to the fact that even if I'm not Jewish, let's say Adi is Christian and I am Muslim and we want to marry, we have no way of marrying in Israel. So there's a larger problem of how the state takes marriage, and that is through religion. And then comes the LGBT community and says, well, even if we could get married and we're not an interfaith couple, the religion does not recognize my right to exist, and therefore I cannot marry. So as of now, people in Israel cannot marry. We have other alternatives which are legal but not official by the state. We have a certificate called a Teudat Chaim Meshutafim, which means the shared life certificate. It is through an organization called Havaya and Be Free Israel. Those are organizations that do weddings outside of the chief rabbinate's office. And those certificates give you the financial benefits by the government of someone who's married, but your legal status in the registry, in your ID card, is still single. So we have still a larger problem of how the state reacts with couples that want to marry outside of the chief rabbinate's office. Ruth? Unmute.
Sorry. Okay. So can you hear me now?
Yes.
So is it true then that in Israel there are no recognized clergy that will perform same-sex marriage?
That's a complicated question.
Sorry.
Because I could say it will be recognized by whom? Like the chief rabbinate's office will not sign on any of that.
Well, but Israel will recognize a marriage by a clergy person, right?
So
because it's a clergy.
There are a lot of complexities there. Some people go outside, they go abroad, to the US or other places, and they get married, same-sex couples.
Sure.
And when they come back, the state has to register them as married. But you have to remember that it costs a lot of money that a lot of people don't have.
Okay.
Like if I had to pay for my flight here for the shlichut, I would not be here. I do not have those kind of funds. I don't think I ever will. And flying to get married and then flying back on my own like wages is it's not something I'm seeing is feasible in the next few years. That's one. And B, what happens if I want a divorce? The only place where you get a divorce is the religious institute, and they don't recognize you as married. So there are a lot of questions. The first problem I presented is more of a moral one, and a financial piece of what is the place of a government's involvement in a civilian's life. And the second one is like, it's the gist of it where like, I can only do half the process if need be.
Right.
And that's a problem. So thank you, Ruth, because you connected us to outside marriage of Israel. I will say that this week we have had an incredible development in Tel Aviv, which we'll soon talk about Tel Aviv, but it's an incredible place to be part of the queer community. And they're starting a registry of same-sex couples in town hall. And this is we talked before about places where society is cut off or disengaged from the political arena. This is one of them. The chief rabbinate's office has been getting less and less, even heteronormative couples in its gates. Less and less people in general in Israel are getting married through the chief rabbinate's office. And that creates a problem where the state has a lot of people who are married, but are not registered. So things like the shared living certificate and what the town hall in Tel Aviv are doing, those are examples of alternatives that are creating pressure on the political system. And the hope is that through grassroots movement, we will create enough pressure that the system will no longer be able to handle it, and it will have to change. And again, there are larger political agendas and forces working against us. But that is the hope. Any other questions about same-sex marriage or marriage in Israel in general? Incredible. So we have had the IDF and we have had marriage. We saw basically the age where I'm just a little bit after high school, I'm 18, and it goes on until something around 23, 22. And we looked at marriage, which is anywhere from legal age and up. What else would you like to learn today? We are still missing the youth. Society in general is very quick. We have surrogacy and adoption. We have the specific but very important events of pride parades, and we have representation in government and legislation.
I'd like to hear about the youth and teen.
Incredible. So I'll say that I come from Bet Shemesh. Bet Shemesh is a small town right next to Jerusalem. In the last 2 decades, it has become extremely ultra-Orthodox. And as a closeted gay teen, my ultra-Orthodox mayor came with a statement saying that Bet Shemesh is a pure city with no people who lay with the beasts. So it was not a good place for me to live. 80% of gay teens have witnessed queer terminologies used in a defamatory manner in high schools. 30% of those comments come from teachers, and I can personally vouch for that statistics. Like I had teachers who just were extremely homophobic in class, where I have to sit there, I have to stay in class, and they are calling me unnatural and a freak and stuff like that. We've had a major part of gay teens suffer verbal harassment. 1/4 suffer sexual harassment. 8% are physically attacked. And in general, we know that queer youth are more prone for depression. They have a higher suicide rate in general and are more endangered in all aspects of life than heterosexual, heteronormative, cisgender teen. Miriam, question.
Two questions, I think. Not that it matters, but I'm curious. Your homophobic teachers when you were in school, were you out?
No, I said I was closeted.
Okay.
I was
Wow.
a very antisocial kid. I was very introverted, I think the word
Yeah,
is.
not surprising because you were keeping that in.
Very shy. And
Yeah.
only when I turned 18 and I left high school and I went to a year before the military where you learn and volunteer and you study politics and economics and stuff like that, did I feel comfortable basically, how do you say, going out of the closet? Never mind.
Coming out.
Coming out. Thank you. And what is the second question?
Are those statistics from Israel different than other countries? Do you know? Or different than the US? Or do you know? I'm just curious.
That is a very good question. I'm not equipped to answer that. I will say that things have changed drastically in the last decade. After my military service, I began volunteering for the Jerusalem Open House of Pride and Tolerance, who do a lot of incredible work in Jerusalem. And I became a lecturer in schools where I went to 6th and 7th grade, which is incredibly young. And I talked to them about my story. And this was the first time people have talked to them about sexuality in general. Because in Israel, you don't have sex ed education. So they have bombarded me. I would talk for 20 minutes and 40 minutes were dedicated for about 200 questions. And anything from like, do you have a boyfriend, to what's a lesbian, to like do you go to the military, like all aspects of life. So I would say that the fact that the Ministry of Education lets organizations like the Jerusalem Open House go to high schools like that and lets us in, it's an incredible shift. And me as a teen, I had two queer role models, which was Ellen DeGeneres in far, far away America. And I have had Dana International, which she is a transgender singer who sang in the Eurovision. And she's an Israeli icon. But that was it. And nowadays it's everywhere. It's in Disney channels, and it is in broadcasters on the radio. It's everywhere, and it's so much more powerful. So these are statistics, but I'm bringing you the gist of it. It is becoming better. I'm not I won't tell you that the teen right now in Bet Shemesh is like his life is perfect, but I think he has general examples from all over the world that he is now privy to, and that makes his life better. Any questions about youth and teens? Okay, Adi?
Do you want to say something about Iggy?
Iggy, yes.
Iggy.
Okay, Iggy is the, I think here it's the Trevor Project, or that's Britain, I'm not sure. It's like the gay youth movement. The acronyms are something in English. It means nothing in Hebrew. It's like International Gay Youth or something like that. At the age of 18, I started going to sessions of Iggy. And it was a secret group. We were 4 people in the group, and everyone except me was in the closet. And they did incredible work where the place was covert. You did not know where it was. It was not advertised. And the times and the dates are secretive because those people, their families don't know. And we would go there, and I felt very raw and unexposed to the gay community back then, still am. But I felt like they knew less than me. So it was a very good experience. And Iggy in general is one of the driving forces of gay youth in Israel. I know that Bet Shemesh does not have a gay youth movement. If they did, I might have snuck there a few times when I was a teen. But in places like Bet Shemesh, with the atmosphere is so toxic, so violent, those groups, every 3-4 years, someone tries to regroup them, retry and reform the group, but it doesn't succeed. So there are a lot of very powerful, influential groups in more progressive areas like Tel Aviv and Rishon LeZion. And there are weaker groups in lower socioeconomic areas like Bet Shemesh, or more religious areas like Bet Shemesh. That's it about Iggy. Adi, would you like to add something else? Because I've been to like maybe 10 sessions with Iggy before the group fell apart.
I just know it's, I mean, it's kind of a youth movement, and it's really allows the teens to have a place, sometimes even to escape to, because they really don't feel comfortable and their family don't know. And I really think it's one of the things that influence Israel and how they see the gay community. It's a really wonderful thing. I think it's one of the biggest and maybe the only LGBTQ youth movement in Israel. Yeah, that's it. It's beautiful in my opinion that they have it.
So about what Adi said about youth gay movements, the gay movement, yes, it is the only one. There are a lot of different organizations and NGOs that work with gay youth. There are places where you can run to if you're kicked out of your home, if you're from the LGBTQIA+ community. There are a lot of different initiatives in different places. So we looked at youth and teen. Anyone have any final question before I move on? No. We looked at IDF. We looked at marriage. Did we look at something else? No, I don't think so. What else would you like to do?
Sharon?
I'm curious about the family life of adoption and surrogacy.
Okay.
But
Thank
I've already
you.
gotten one, so somebody else has a request.
So I will actually try and get 2 subjects in 20 minutes. I like to talk. I don't know if you noticed. So same-sex couple in Israel, I'll summarize it by heart. You can read. This is just an overview of the laws, but in general, adoption of a child is nigh impossible for same-sex couples unless you are, like, if you have the funds, and usually it's something around 400,000 shekels or more, which again, I do not have, and I don't know if I'll ever have one. Sorry, the 400,000 shekel is not for adoption, it's for surrogacy, adoption through surrogacy. There's a difference. And in English, there's an adoption and there's a imutz, and
Surrogacy is the other English word. Surrogate.
Oh, I'm missing some terminologies, but never mind. In Israel, surrogacy costs a lot, and it's not even in Israel, it's abroad. Like you, and a lot of times, surrogacy is through, oh my God, I forgot the word, through women who have had less than 8 years of basic education, meaning they didn't go through 9th grade. So there are a lot of also ethical and moral questions that we need to ask about surrogacy. But adoption in Israel is only possible under very specific conditions, which as of now, the Israeli government does not help with. We are very held back by legislation in public. And we are seeing some of our representatives who have surrogate children, or just same-sex families, and the representative in the Knesset is blocking the law that will help other people do that for less money. So as of now, I will not be able to have children in Israel, like me specifically. And that's something that it is very infuriating for me and for my mama. Like, any questions about adoption and surrogacy? Incredible. There was less to say here. There's nothing happening. We still have left society in general, representation in government and legislation, and the Tel Aviv Pride Parade and pinkwashing. So I think Sharon raised her hand before.
The Tel Aviv Pride I'd like to hear about.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
I was hoping someone will pick that.
What?
I was hoping someone will choose that.
Have you ever been, any of you?
It was so incredibly hot.
Okay, so Adi, I want you to share the experience. What do you see? What do you smell? What is the emotions there?
First of all, I feel like it's a big party. You can see many kinds of people there. Because it's very hot, they're not wearing a lot of clothes. But it basically, like, you walk on the street until you reach the beach, and on the way, like, people with flags and singing songs, and there is music, and they really, like, the atmosphere is like fun and accepting. And in the past few years, you also saw like parents, like my parents' generation and even older, coming to support their kids, and LGBTQ couples with their children. And then you reach the beach, and it's a big party with a lot of singers that perform. Some of them from the LGBTQ community, some support the LGBT community. And there are the trucks that each truck represent a different organization. Correct me if I'm wrong.
So the trucks are like moving shows with people on them.
Yeah, and it's hot. Yeah.
Thank you, Adi, for summarizing.
Sure.
You touched incredible points. I'll say the Tel Aviv Pride Parade is not the only one in Israel. There are many in different cities, but it is the first. And I believe it started in 1971 or 1978. I am not sure. I always forget. But it is started as a civil protest with signs and people like shouting and calling out and marching for equal rights. Somewhere along the way, it has developed into, and Adi is completely right, the biggest party. And it's not just the biggest party, it's the biggest party in Israel year round, every year. And I believe last year we had almost 1 million people in that party. And you have to understand, Israel has about like 8-9 million people. Imagine like 1/10 of America coming to a pride parade. It is incredible. So it's really like, wow. And all of Tel Aviv for that day is blocked, and there's music and dancing and alcohol. And it is really the biggest party. And people are like wearing, how do you say, skimpy? Do you say skimpy? Is that the right word? Okay, very small clothes. And it's the biggest party of the year. And it is full of like pride and flags everywhere in Tel Aviv. And it is incredible. There are a lot of problems that I have with that. First of all, me, myself, my personal preference is I'm a nerd. Like, I'm a Harry Potter, fantasy, sci-fi, asleep by 8 p.m. nerd. And I do not like loud music, and I do not like skimpy clothing, and I am very political. I want to protest for my rights. This is like, I don't feel this is the time for celebration. There is a lot to say. I'm not, how do you say? Like, it is absolutely, I'm not saying it's wrong, we should celebrate Pride, but it's only one part. It's the inner pride, but we need to work on the outside and demand equality. And this is very strong for me. And I like to go to the Jerusalem Pride Parade because it is different. We'll talk about it in a minute. I'll just say about Tel Aviv that Tel Aviv has shifted into a much larger tourist-oriented attraction. And Tel Aviv, which is absolutely one of the most progressive and tolerant places in Israel, and it is called the gay capital of the Middle East for a reason. It is getting world gay tourism year round. And actually last year we talked about 1 million people there. There were so many people that all the hotels and all the motels were booked, and the town hall asked people to open their private homes in Tel Aviv for people from outside, and they would help fund their stay there. That's how many tourism come there, to the place where all the hotels are completely maxed. What?
Fun fact, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, one of the actors from How I Met Your Mother was in the Israeli Gay Parade.
And Neil Patrick Harris was the leader of the event. I remember everyone in Israel, Neil Patrick Harris, Neil Patrick Harris, Neil Patrick Harris. I will say that Tel Aviv gets a lot of finances from that World Gay Tourism, because during that Pride Month, people are coming from all over the world. We got people from Europe, Germany, Australia, South America, North America. People are coming from around the world for the Tel Aviv Pride Parade and to experience Tel Aviv's incredible tolerant and progressive culture. That being said, as I said, I'm not a party person. Give me a sign, let's march and do something. And at 2014, I joined my first Pride Parade that I went to, and it was in Jerusalem. And the Jerusalem Pride and Tolerance Parade is a lot more of a political act. It is in our capital, where we can find the Western Wall, the place where both our Prime Minister and President reside, where the Israeli parliament, the Knesset is. It is extremely political. But what I really loved about it is you can see the diversity of Israeli public coming there, because it's less hypersexualized, and we can talk about the place of sexuality in our culture in general and what we can find as legitimate. But it is more approachable to other audiences, and I can see grandparents with their grandchildren in a stroller, and the kid is covered with a pride flag, and youth movements, and ultra orthodox and religious people holding signs and supporting, and of course there are counter protests at the end. But it happens, and every year more and more people come to pride events all across Israel. And last year, while I was here, Beit Shemesh had its first Pride Parade ever. It had 20 people. But next year, I will definitely be one of those 20 people. And the numbers of people coming into Pride Parades are increasing every year, and more cities are making their own Pride Parades every year. So we're seeing the gay communities in Israel coming into more awareness in that yearly event.
I would like to make a comment. Earlier, you asked about where I lived in Lidditz, which is a small town, very conservative town. And I feel about this the same way, that Lidditz, Pennsylvania had 2 Black Lives Matter demonstrations in it, which I'm like, oh my gosh, Lidditz? So I feel the same way you felt about that.
It's if progress is coming here, we're on the right path.
Yeah.
A little bit now on something called pink washing. And I will say that very shortly, so I'll have time to summarize and give you time for final questions. Pink washing is a term used specifically about marketing, where a country uses its relations with the gay community, what is happening in the gay community, to market its approach or its morality in general to other organizations or states. And it is specifically in Israel used to describe what is happening when it comes to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict as a marketing tactic, meaning people are advertising about illegal stuff happening in the territories, and then the Israeli government would not respond, but they would put a poster of an Arab Jew, an Arab Palestinian Jew, and an Israeli, what did I say? An Arab Palestinian and an Israeli Jew, and they are a gay couple, and then Israel would write, we are progressive and we include everyone here. And it is a tactic to divert from problems. And when I did research for this session, I went to the Israel Ministry of Foreign Affairs website, and I found this nice quote. The gay revolution of the 1980s brought Israel's LGBT community full recognition of their human rights, as well as legal and social equality for individuals and families. Today, Tel Aviv is considered the gay capital of the Middle East, thanks to its thriving and supported LGBT community, playing an integral role in Israeli society. And this is where I got furious, because everything here is false. We did not get a full recognition of our human rights, no legal right, no legal equality, no social equality, not to individuals and not to families. And Tel Aviv is considered the gay capital of the Middle East, and the gay community in Israel is thriving, not because they are supported, but even though they are not supported in Israel. So this is an example. An Israeli would never get there, would never see this paragraph, and it's not in the Hebrew. Only someone who is an English-speaking person, who's most of the time not Israeli, would go to the English part and see. And this is what people who do not know Israel on a very basic level see. And then they think, oh, Israelis have equal rights. So this is just one thing that the government lies about. There are a lot of other ones, and they're actually very bad liars in a lot of topics. The stuff they lie about is incredible. I don't know why they bother. If a minute after they recant their statement, I don't understand that political maneuver. Any other question here?
That the competition to be the gay capital of the Middle East, there's probably not a lot of it.
So the gay capital of the Middle East, it's always a point of pride, but also a point where you say, like, is that where you put your standards? Like our standards should be higher than comparing ourselves where places where women can't drive. And where there are totalitarian regimes in power. So thank you for that, Miriam. It is incredibly important. Any final questions before I summarize and give you like one final time to ask more questions?
I would like to say that I'm having a little bit hard time with the pink washing term, mostly because I feel that a lot of the time it being used not correctly and not in the right situation. Like I experienced that when people used it, and I was like, no, this is not that. And it's also the what you said, like, who should we compare ourselves to? It's also a question because I do think as a country, we did a process. We have much more things, I mean, to prove and to do. But it is a process that we've been done as a pretty religious country. And I think sometimes we compare ourselves too much to other countries, and sometimes we kind of minimize our things that we did achieve because we're trying to look at too much in other countries, if it makes sense what I'm saying. So like I agree and not agree with that. I do think we should proud of what we did have and did achieved, and looking forward to what we have to achieve more. I do agree that, you know, lying about things like that, it's not cool and not okay. But things are happening, and some things are good, and we should be proud of them.
Oh, Adi, you basically stole my entire summary.
Sorry.
So I'll have to say it now in different words. So I'll take what Adi said, but I'll take it to the personal place. Again, I started as a very introverted, closeted gay teen in a very homophobic city. A decade later, that city has a more progressive vibe. There's a small Iggy group, I think there. Once when I was in the summer, I saw an ad, and there's the Pride Parade there, and there's so much progress when it comes to grassroots movements and to the awareness of the public. Like I can say for myself that when I was a teen, I was a gay teen, I had no idea what transgender was. And for I think until like 3 years ago, I had no idea. And we are constantly improving, constantly becoming more and more aware of our problems and the way we say wrong and how our approaches are harming other parts of society. And we are progressive. We are progressing rapidly. We can see this in society in general, in our acceptance rate in the society. And Adi was absolutely right. Again, you stole that. Is that Israel in general is more conservative than America. I'm saying that plain and simple. I might live in a highly progressive place, but even in America, you can get married in a non-religious way. And there's a lot of credit to be given to the organizations doing incredible work to progress that. We're seeing, again, more pride parades. We're seeing more improvements in the IDF. We didn't talk about a lot of terminologies that have changed for the better in the IDF as soldiers. Teen and youth have more role models in general. Life, family, and surrogacy is becoming a more and more prominent issue. A decade ago, gay rights were not a part of something that coalitions would discuss when trying to form. And now it is one of the basic things they talk about. So we are not perfect. And as I said, I cannot get married in Israel, and I cannot have a family in Israel. And in some places in my own city, I might get stoned. Like literally, people will throw stones at me. The ultra-Orthodox, never mind. And change is very, very slow, and everyday lives are lost. We have had in the last month 2 very prominent leaders in the gay community, one transgender, one gay, killing themselves. There's a lot of depression going on. There's the feeling of stuff not progressing. But if we look at a decade ago, we're seeing vast improvement. And yes, every day is lives. It's lives at risk, but we are seeing improvement. So I really want us to get out of this optimistic and remember that what we need to do is bring stuff into awareness. We are still learning about cisgender and transgender culture and what we might be able to do better. And it might be that some of the things here would be completely irrelevant or even barbaric in a decade. And I hope they are, because they'll show progress. So for Pride Month, I want everyone to be proud of every small action that you're doing. And just by participating in this talk, you're bringing it into awareness in yourself. And that is part of activism. So thank you for taking an hour of your time and joining while I blab on. And this is absolutely time for questions. Yes, Ruth?
Well, I was hoping we could see the other slides. I know you don't have time to talk about them.
representation in general, let's start with this one. 80% of the Israelis support equal rights for gay couples, and every minute and a half of defamatory, hateful post is written against the gay community. There's something about general statistics that they lose some hold on reality, because every city, every town is incredibly different. And the general public doesn't live in the state of Israel. You live in your city, you live in your town. And that is why, yes, Miriam?
Ruth is a statistician. She works with statistics.
It's
Okay.
true.
Okay.
So she gets it.
Okay. I am glad she agrees with me. I'm not a statistician. And a little bit about this, we are saying, I think, something about 6 members of the Knesset. We have Knesset members who are proudly homophobic, and some of them have done conversion therapy for teens. There's a lot of general problems there, but we have Knesset members. This week, really, we have a Knesset member who's trying to push to ban conversion therapy. And legislation is being held up, but they're right now in, how do you say? Not mediation. When you try to negotiations. Okay, yes. So in general, I'll say that we've had 2 homophobic ministers of education in the span of the last 2 years. There's still a lot to go when it comes to representation. But again, even here, we're seeing progress, even in the most difficult arena in Israel when it comes to the gay community, which is the legislation, we are seeing incredible progress. So if this is happening in Israel, then you in America should be extremely optimistic about your situation, because you may have other challenges which are equally difficult, but if we're doing it, so can you. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank Idan, thank you. Toda,
Thank you,
toda,
Dom.
toda rabba. It was super interesting. And thank you for taking from your time to share this with us. Do you want to say something on Life Online before we are wrapping up?
Yes.
You don't have to.
First of all, I'll say that let's see, we can stop the share. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to say that for anything you need, if you have any questions or if you want the presentation itself, please, Adi, feel free to share my email to anyone who needs. I will happily answer any and all questions you have, not only being gay in Israel, but also in general. Let's see.
Remind us where you are in Maryland.
What?
Where are you in Maryland right now?
I am in Rockville,
In
Maryland.
Rockville, okay.
I am currently sending all the links to Life Online, our program. So please join us. We have another question here. Do you mind talking about yourself? So the lesson is done. Feel free to drop out, but there are other questions here. So anyone who wants to listen to them absolutely can. This one is, do you mind talking about yourself? Where do I fit into the LGBTQIAP community? So I'm still not very fitting there. The gay community in Israel, there's a lot to say. I'll talk about the gay, not the LGBT, but the gay community is a lot of time hypersexual. We have a lot of problems also with drugs that within the community itself. There's a lot of challenges there. As a nerd, I'm finding it very difficult to find my place in there. I'm really trying to engage mostly through political action and activism and volunteering, but I'm still figuring myself out. I came out of the closet at 2018. No, at when I was 18, I don't remember the year. And I still haven't had a boyfriend, and I still haven't engaged with like gay clubs or stuff like that. So I'm finding it very difficult to engage with that. And it might be part of the fact that I'm in Bet Shemesh, not in a big town. It might be because I'm too lazy to drive or get on the bus for 2 hours for Tel Aviv, because even though it's 30 minutes, public transportation in Israel is horrible.
It's better than here, just saying.
Yes, but cars here are more expensive.
True. I will, if I can just add something about that. I know that one of the criticism that the gay have on themselves is that they all very like they all need to be like super in shape and look good, and they're like, you know, go into the gym and stuff like that. But this is something that they also kind of criticize themselves, from what I know and what my friends are sharing.
How do you say, the ideal of gay beauty is a lot more strict than the heterosexual standard.
Like before the gay parade in Tel Aviv, they will all like go to the gym and work hard so their body will be like perfect. And
if you're not extremely buff, you're a failure. And
I think we have that here.
You know, it's bad enough in American society of the quote image of the perfect woman. There is no such thing. There is no perfect body. It does not exist. It's someone's opinion of what's a perfect body. And to compare to someone else just isn't healthy. How's that?
That's, we can also part about the general ideals of beauty in different cultures. I'll say that in Israel, there's a lot of parallel lines that you can compare with the IDF culture. A lot of the times, there's a lot of interesting stuff there to be said. Again, this is a generalization, and generalizations are an important tool when creating a discussion, but we need to call them as generalizations. Let's see the other part of the question. And a little bit I see of you on question: what is my gender? So that's a very, very good question. I'm conflicted within myself, because gender is the role the society tells me I should be. So at one point, my thoughts are like, F you society, I'll do whatever I want. But on the other hand, and so by terminology, you can call me non-binary, but in a lot of very basic ways, I still act the way society tells me to act. And there is a very deep and sometimes confusing discussion to be there about whether it's in my own free will or the result of societal pressure. But at the end, on a day-to-day basis, I do not get out of what the gender of a man does, most of the times. So a lot of times they say, as a point of pride, you don't tell me what to do. I don't like sports, and I like to do all kinds of like crafting, whether it's weaving or carving or knitting or whatever. I do whatever, and you won't tell me. But again, in general, my physical, how do you say, my clothing is usually heteronormative and cisgender. So it's a very fascinating question. I'm still conflicted with, because in ideals, I'm a non-binary. You won't tell me what to do and what to be.
Thank you. one of the reasons I'm curious is my nephew recently told me that he's non-binary. And we had some wonderful conversations of him teaching me, obviously, because this was new in my vocabulary. But now I'm really curious. And he also is still figuring it out that as a younger person, he didn't know these things were even options. You know, he's going to be 27. It was just a fascinating conversation, which is why I was asking, you know, if you didn't mind talking about it. Thank you. Thank you.
It's a new world and we're all going to learn.
Yes. And we just have to learn without being offensive.
So I'll say I have a separate session on gender. And I think the most important key when it comes to gender, but basically anything else, is to not be afraid of your mistakes. Because terminologies rapidly evolve. Like when I came here, I would still use transsexual as a term. But now it's considered defamatory. And the right term is transgender. And there's a lot of place where people need definitions. But most people, and that's why we have Q of queer, don't get into a definition. It's not something all people do. It's not something all people are. And so the right way to go about it is like someone is asking me, but then what are you? Like, are you A, B, C, D? And I'm like, it's not a type, it's me. I might be the only one.
My nephew explained it as basically, you know, a continuum. You know, there's extremes, there's a lot in between. And actually he answered my initial question was, I'm super queer. Like, I'm supposed to know what that means. And I just started laughing at his answer. I'm like, I'm not laughing at you. I'm not laughing at you. It was just, we're close. We can have these conversations.
It is absolutely understandable. And when I talked with my mother, when I came out, not about binary and stuff like that, she was like, what is happening? What is going on? Explain this to me. And in general, our society, we need to understand that each of those conversations promote the societal change.
Right.
We look at society and we say, everyone is progressing and we feel left behind. But there's no like grand event happening that we're missing because we stayed at home because of coronavirus. The event is building up and it's a process.
Yes.
And I think what's unique about gender specifically, unlike other problems, we can say BLM is affected by culture, but BLM is about basic rights and gender is about the social norm. And therefore, each discussion about gender shapes gender in a way that is unique. Because social interaction is the result and the source of gender, if you get what I'm saying.
Yes. Thank you so much, Idan.
So while we're disclosing, I have a non-binary child and they use they, them pronouns.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I'm getting used
and
to it.
they speak just a little bit of Hebrew and can have a conversation. So we have the question, in Hebrew, do you use masculine plural? Is that how you do they?
There's a lot of different ways. Some will say
bet there are.
masculine plural or feminine plural or both of them together. So instead of saying hem or hen, we'll say hen
Okay.
or hen or a combination of henim or stuff like that. And there's also, when you speak to a multitude of people and you want to be inclusive, you won't say atem mevinim, male plural, or atem mevinot, female plural, you can say atem mevinimot, which is the male and female plural combined. And
Like Hebrew was not complicated.
I will report
yes,
this to them.
like Hebrew was not complicated.
My, he explained that the quote, new word for nephew or niece says is nibbling in English, which he realizes is just not happening. Sorry, they realize is not happening.
Nibbling?
Nibbling, child of your sibling.
Ah,
Okay.
Right, they're my
Okay.
sister's
It's clever.
child.
Yeah.
Clever.
Yes,
I,
they had all sorts of
terminologies
words that
are,
were just
are still like people
Rough.
ask me what is queer, and I'm like, I don't know. What do you ask me? It's evolving and it's different from person to person. All we need to know, like we don't have to know. We want to know, but we don't have to know what is the gender of the person speaking in front of us. There, we sometimes have this need to know something. And I think the basic stuff is adding he, she, the pronouns to my name on Zoom. Specifically now, I had a problem and I had to switch an account, but usually it says Idan Sharon, and in parentheses it says he, him. So people know how to approach me. So these are the stuff that like help people engage in a very quiet and approachable manner.
We're trying. Thank you so much. I think
Thank you very much.
Peter's probably ready.
Oh, I have to go start it.
Yeah,
I have to go to a different session too.
Okay.
תודה רבה,
Thank you very much.
עידן.
Nice